I sprint to go give someone a shoulder bump, and no one makes eye contact with me. It's like, well, I guess I just got to keep running now. By the time I got back, I was like, oh my God, I'm gassed. Like, I'm like stuck in wind right now. For these two, the fact that they can both move and then they're both able to, escape on the run, make throws on the run, because as an O-lineman, it's not always going to be perfect in the pocket. You'd love for it to be, but football's a game, it's imperfect, and the guys across from us get paid too. I think in college, you were able to get away with some certain things. And then the NFL, guys will expose you for it if you're not good at it. So he kind of taught me a lot about what he does pre-snap to get that dialed in. So I got there when he left, and everyone told me like JT was unbelievable. He was so good. I was like, okay, I hear you, but I have no idea how good he was. And then you finally get to play with him, and he is that good. He's a game changer.
Welcome to the Green Light Podcast presented by BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code GREENLIGHT and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code GREENLIGHT. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. If that bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just make sure you use bonus code GREENLIGHT when you sign up.
What is up, y'all? It's the Butter King here, joined by Colts second-year offensive lineman and UW alumni, UW legend, really. Go Badgers. Tanor Bortolini. Tanor, thanks for coming on, man.
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's awesome. This is your last day as a free man for a while. You report to training camp tomorrow, and you choose to spend it with your boy. I love that. So how you feeling about camp round 2?
I'm excited, honestly. Kind of when I drove back into Indy yesterday, I was like, wow, it's nice to be back. I think, year 2, you're a lot more comfortable with what's going on and kind of the routine that you got to have. Year 1, you're kind of thrown in the fire, and that was a very stressful first time going through it all. So year 2, feeling a lot more better with what you got to do to come in, kind of be prepared, and really excited about it.
Yeah, you've got the familiarity. You feel like you kind of know the ropes a little bit. That rookie training camp, man, that's a special one. You feel like you're just kind of being thrown to the wolves a little bit. Did you feel that way at all last year with training camp?
Absolutely. And it's like, you're installing plays so fast that like everyone else seems to know what's going on. You and the other rookies are still trying to figure it all out. And it's like you're like trying to drink out of a fire hose. And there's a lot of information being thrown at you and a lot you have to do on a day-to-day basis. And it's definitely a big learning curve. But it was a lot of fun, and I'm really excited about this next time around. I think it'll be a little easier.
Yeah, you're not a rookie anymore, man. I mean, I'll never forget when I think my first year as a rookie, some like vet, I did something dumb, and he like looks at me, he's like, man, rookies don't even know, like you don't even know what you don't know. And at the time I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. But looking back and it's like, yeah, when you're a rookie, you don't know much. So going into that second training camp, like how's your preparation different? I know you went to Wisconsin, you probably got some meathead in you. I know you're a big training guy. How do you approach training camp differently your second time around?
I think the first time I really focused a little too much on strength rolling into it and not as much conditioning. Like being from Wisconsin, we like to throw some weight on the bar.
Hell yeah, brother.
Understanding that when you get to training camp, it's not all about how much you can lift. It's about being able to, lift continuously. Because you're going to be doing, 10, 12 play drives, and You're not just throwing up 1 rep max and calling it a day. So it's just kind of training a little more accordingly where you're in shape physically to do those kind of things as soon as you show up and not have to get in shape once you get there.
So I want to look back really quick. We talked about your first, rookie training camp and what that kind of felt like a little bit, but I'm very curious to hear about your rookie experience as a whole. You're a 4th-round pick. Guys in the, middle of the late rounds obviously always have to earn their playing time, but you got 5 starts last year, which was awesome. How do you feel about your rookie experience as a whole?
Again, like all rookies, I think there's a big learning curve to it. The jump from college to NFL preparation going into game week, I think you can attest to this, it's a lot different. You have to put a lot more into it. So kind of figuring out what I had to do, especially from that center spot where you're making all the calls, you're doing most of the things for the O-line. That's a lot of responsibility for a guy that's 23 when you're playing next to an all-pro like Quenton Nelson. So like having guys like that next to you definitely helped out as well.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun, and it was just a good experience to kind of get to learn year one, get a couple starts, and hopefully get some more this year.
Yeah, I was very impressed with your play, man. You know, I love watching interior O-line and D-line. And one thing I thought was really cool is your first start from last year was against the Steelers. A familiar face lining up across from you, and Keanu Benton, the nose guard, also played at Wisconsin. We're doing a little Wisconsin thing today, a little bit, guys. What's it like to play against a former teammate and a buddy in your first ever NFL start?
It's awesome, and it's someone that you know really well as a player, and they know you really well as a player.
Yeah.
So it's a crazy first matchup because it's like, wow, like out of all the people you could draw in the NFL, it's someone you've been playing against for 4 years already. So
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun to play against Keanu again, and I think we see him again this year. So it'll be a great time running that back.
Yeah, one of my producers sent me a clip of you kind of losing your mind on the sideline after a long drive there. I think you guys drove down the field, had a score that my sources tell me that was your first ever drive in the NFL, and then the clip was you going crazy on the sideline. I know that had to be exhausting celebrating like that after that. Was that kind of just a culmination of, you know, football and, you know, your first experience, you just emotions kind of took over there, or what happened?
So it was like we go on the first drive, and everyone's talking about how good this Steelers defense is, and no one can run the ball. And we end up running the ball for like 50 yards on the first drive, punch it in, and I sprint to go give someone a shoulder bump, and no one makes eye contact with me. It's like, well, I guess I've just got to keep running now. So I sprinted all the way to the bench. By the time I got back, I was like, oh my God, I'm gassed. I'm like stuck in wind right now. But it was a surreal time.
That's when you got to get the O2. Maybe not as a rookie,
yeah.
you know, but in your second year, if that situation comes back up, you get the oxygen mask, you know. You can't really use an oxygen mask.
We have guys that have it now. And like that's something I wish I would have known about in that moment, because I think the defense got free, and I was like, we got to get back up and go now. So, no, it was a lot of fun.
Exactly. And you talked about Quenton Nelson. He's a stud. I played against him a handful of times, you know, when I was playing, and he's a load, man. What's it like? Obviously, a little bit of heightened, you know, awareness when you have a guy like that next to you. You want to play your best for him because you know he's going to be playing really well. But what are some things that he taught you as a young player?
I think just what he does in a week to prepare. And there's a lot of little nuances in his technique that was great to kind of learn hands-on from him, you know.
Can we get into that at all? Like, do you know, like, is it, you know, on like a B block hand placement or
just certain hand placements, pad level, like even in his past pro posture, I think in college you were able to get away with some certain things.
Yeah.
Then the NFL guys will expose you for if you're not good at. So like certain things in my past posture, like getting my shoulders back a little more. And it's just a slight forward lean compared to just that slight, even a little more, you know, that's when you get
that's when you get
those moves.
Yep.
So he kind of taught me a lot about what he does pre-snap to get that dialed in, you know, setting his posture in his back, in his stance, so that when he gets out of his stance, he's already in it. And it's a cool experience, and he's a really great guy to learn from, because obviously he's been doing it at a really high level for a really long time now.
Yeah, he's fucking good, man. I'll tell you firsthand. I played against him down in Tampa in 2019, and watching him and Vita Vea go at it, it's just strength on strength. And he's a fun guy to watch, man. He's a guy who I think has got a lot of good years left him, and he'll you know, be in the Hall of Fame at some point. But so we talked a little bit about technique. I love talking to O-linemen about technique. You know, you can just learn so much from your counterpoints on the other side of the ball. So a couple random technique, you know, adjacent question here is like, you have a favorite block? You know, like, don't tell me deuce, you know, like a deuce, you know, but
I like a outside zone reach.
For
the reason I feel like I'm quick enough to get the edge and then get some press on that block.
Yeah.
That's always one of the stronger parts of my game.
Like on a 2-eye, if you're a center and you reach a 2-eye, like an outside zone, is that kind of like a feather in your cap a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And there's some guys that are super hard to reach. You know, you got a hard penetrator. It's a lot different if it's a kind of a gap player. But no, if you win that 2-eye block, it feels pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Damn, I did that. You know, if the run runs off your block, you're like, that was all me. I feel that.
Yeah. Then you run down the sideline, you know, for 40 yards or whatever.
Exactly.
No, whenever I was a 2-eye, we had a gap penetration technique when I was in Philly, and you're a 2-eye and you get reached by the center. You just feel so unathletic. You know, it's sometimes you guys will do those big, you'll give ground and give bucket step, you know, and then I'm upfield, and all you really got to do is kind of wheel the shoulders out of there, and then that front side A gap is just wide open. And you got a back like Jonathan Taylor, you know, he's gonna feast on that. Okay, let's look ahead a little bit to the 2025 Colts season. I always think it's funny because, you know, now that I'm done playing, people make a big deal about the schedule release and things like that. I'm like, yeah, I have no idea. Like when I was a player, I would look at the bye week and like if we had a Thursday night game, and that's about it, man. Is that kind of where you're at, or do you have any games circled here on the calendar?
I'm in the exact same boat. I'm like, oh, we play in Berlin. We got the bye week. Someone's like, who do you play week 1? I was like, I'm not really sure. Or when do you play these guys? I don't know. It's just I'm kind of a week-to-week guy. I'll prepare when I need to prepare. But like I don't need to read every team we play and know every week. And that's not what you need to have. You just focus on whatever we got going on now.
We're all kind of cut from the same cloth there. But I did want to talk a little bit about that game in Germany, week 10 against the Falcons. I mean, that's got to be a very different football experience. Are you kind of prepping yourself mentally for a lot of travel with that and kind of a different game day atmosphere, or what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. I think it'll be a cool experience. I've never been to Germany or Berlin, so I think it'll be cool to check it out.
It might not be that different from Wisconsin.
I wouldn't be surprised. I heard those guys like to drink beer, so the comparison's there. But I think the preparation will be a little different in that you're flying. The time zone change is what I think will be the biggest difference. But I think they do a lot of things throughout the week to make sure you're prepared for all that and that you're prepared going into the game. So I don't think it'll be too drastic. But I've never done it. Never played an international game, so there's only one way to find out. Yeah,
I played in London, in Tampa, one of my years in Tampa, and the thing that was so funny to me is like, you show up to the game. We played the Panthers, the Bucks versus the Panthers, and like there was like a million Patrick Mahomes jerseys, or like whomever, and then they cheer so loudly for the extra points, and you're like, okay, like yeah, just their kind of experience of the game is so different, but it's it is kind of very cool. I'm sure you found out in your rookie year, you get so locked into the routine and everything like that. It can be kind of invigorating to do something as wild as playing in Germany, and then you follow it up with a nice bye week, which is always fun. We don't need to get into this a ton, but from the media aspect, a lot of people are very curious to see what happens with the quarterback Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson. A little bit of a quarterback competition. I know you're like, Beau, I'm an O-lineman, man. Like, I'm just gonna fucking block for him. But I think what I'm always curious about is, as O-lineman, like you have two quarterbacks. When there's a competition, obviously these guys are splitting reps, getting reps with the one. Like, what are some of the biggest things that O-linemen appreciate about, their quarterback? Like, is it like from an intangible standpoint, like things like that?
For these two, the fact that they can both move and then they're both able to, escape on the run, make throws on the run, because as an O-lineman, it's not always going to be perfect in the pocket. You'd love for it to be, but football's a game. It's imperfect, and the guys across from us get paid too. So they're going to make plays. And having guys that can escape, roll out, make throws that we need them to hit is really huge. And it's really cool that both these guys have that ability.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was kind of thinking too. And it's interesting because these guys are both very athletic, but still a little bit different players. And Daniel Jones, I played against him. He's a guy with, a lot of history. He's got a lot of experience. Have you felt that at all during the huddle? Obviously just been with him in the offseason, but I feel like that might shine through a little bit.
Absolutely. And it's cool to see even what he does throughout the day and throughout the week in his preparation. Like even now he's the same guy every day. He shows up at the same time in the morning. He's in early. He's out late. And it's all things you'd want out of a quarterback, and it's really cool to see that from him. And, the consistency is there. He's the same guy every day. And I think from that position, that's really important. It's really, really critical.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that, the front office and the coaching staff will take your opinion of these two guys into consideration, considering they stick their hand in your ass on every play. That's a pretty special bond between a quarterback and center.
Absolutely. You got to get real comfortable with the other guy,
It's funny. When I was in Tampa, they made like Fitz and Jameis were the quarterbacks. Center of the time was Ryan Jensen, and they had a very specific routine for him to like stop sweat. So we had to use like baby powder and then a towel. And then once Tom came down to Tampa, Jensen was telling me he made him change his pants at halftime in between games and, in practice as well. Has that ever been a complaint from the quarterbacks for you?
We've never had anything to that extent yet.
Sweat management.
If we do, you'll be the first. I'll let you know.
Okay, yeah.
Nothing that bad yet.
See, these are the interesting things about football that no one really hears about. All the the details of the center quarterback exchange are very exciting. So talking about a couple other players on the Colts, we got to talk about Jonathan Taylor, especially two Badgers here. Uh, how nice is it with a back that talented behind you?
It's been unreal. When I was at Wisconsin, so I got there when he left, and
Yep.
everyone told me like JT was unbelievable. He was so good, and like I was like, okay, I hear you, but I have no idea how good he was. And then you finally get to play with him, and he is that good.
Yeah.
He's a game changer. And like some of the runs he had this year, you're like, there's no that run has no business being a 40-yard run. You know, it should be a loss of
Yeah.
three maybe. But he does some unbelievable things, makes some unbelievable cuts and reads, and it makes it a lot easier to do your job when you have a guy like that behind you.
Yeah, he's an incredible guy too. We had the chance to interview him. The draft was in Green Bay this year, so got to interview Monty Ball, James White, Melvin Gordon, and JT. And it's like what a crew. And he's so charismatic, such a good guy, and he was so pumped to be back and be part of the draft because he didn't get that experience. So I thought that was really cool, and I want to talk to you about that a little bit. Like, what was your draft experience like? I know you had a great combine. You broke the record for the short shuttle, right, for offensive linemen?
Yeah, for the centers for the L drill. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
and I had no idea I broke it until like later on. I was
really?
like, wow, because like they got up and asked. So when I got up there, they're like, how fast do you think you'll go? I'm like, oh, like I think under 7.2. And I guess looking back, that's pretty arrogant. Like that was the record.
That's
But I had no idea. That's just kind of what I was running in like our training.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But then the draft day, you have no idea. It's again,
Yeah.
you have no idea if you get picked or if you're going to get picked. And so you're sitting there waiting for a phone call. I'm with my whole family, and remember the phone goes off, and it's an Indianapolis area code. And it's like, holy shit,
Yeah.
I'm going to be a Colt. This is awesome. And it's a pretty surreal feeling. You just wish you could get drafted every year.
Yeah, right. But then you're a rookie and you're like, yeah, I'm good on this. Like, let's not.
Yeah,
be a rookie
100%.
anymore. All right, I got to talk about the Colts defensive line. You got some studs in there, man. DeForest Buckner, tall, can play up and down the line. And then I think Grover Stewart is a load on the inside. And then another rookie classmate of yours, Latu. Which of those guys is the biggest problem for you?
They're all talented. So I don't have to go against Latu. So it's me or fucking Grove for the most part. But both those guys are tremendous players. And that's the best part is that you go against those guys every day in practice. You're going to be just fine when it gets to games. But Grove's got great power, a variety of moves. And then Buck's got a whole arsenal. And he's got great length where, he can do a bunch of different things. And so it's been great getting to play against those guys because the first time you ever practice against them, like, I don't think I've ever been beat that bad in like 3-4 years, So it's a eye-opening experience, but it shows you what you need to work on. And so they're both tremendous players.
Yeah, I mean, Grover does such a good job of staying square in the line of scrimmage. Like we talked earlier about reaching, a 2-eye and how hard that can be and how rewarding that can be for a center. But with like that gap scheme that you guys play and have played in Indianapolis, that's a real challenge. That's
it lets them get after it.
Yeah,
it's a lot of man to stop.
Yeah, and then you see those huge arm overs from DeForest Buckner, and you try to maybe try to quick set him a little bit, and he can, he's so shifty with his upper body and his arms and things like that. I'm sure you're ready for some battles with those guys.
No, they give him the freedom to kind of do some stuff where he doesn't have to play that gap. They'll adjust if he decides to go inside, and that makes it even harder to block a guy like that.
Yeah, I mean, you got Zaire Franklin, who's a really good backer too as well, and I'm sure that he's a guy that you're tasked to block on a lot of run assignments as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, he's a really good player, and again, it's great having guys like that you get to practice against because once you get to the game, it's like. Sometimes they're just not as good as the guys you've been practicing against all years. It makes it a little easier.
Yeah, gives you a lot of confidence. Well, Tanor, I really appreciate you coming on. You report for training camp tomorrow. It's your last day. What you got a special meal you're going to eat, or a special activity you're going to do before it all kind of ramps up here?
I bought a nice ribeye last night. I got some rice, ribeye, and then some vegetables. So it'll be a nice little final dinner, last supper, if you will. But I'm excited about it, and then excited to get to camp.
Yeah, you deserve it, man. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. Really looking forward to watching you here in your second season for the Colts, and appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you having me on.